So this is the Karkaraly National Park Museum. It's a very, very old looking building. I think it is quite old, as the photographs taken of that museum building were actually black and white within, so I'm assuming 1950s, 60s-ish, which should make sense. It's one of those things, I want to contrast this actually with, in Karakol, Kyrgyzstan, they used to have, I think, the only zoo in Kyrgyzstan, and they closed it recently actually. And when I last went back, which is a real shame. People look at things. Yes, everything. Obviously, the paint has come off. It hasn't been attended to probably for 60 years. People judge quality by the aesthetic. That's the society in which we live. People have come to associate, wrongly, of course, prettiness, facades, aesthetic appealingness, if that's even, or aesthetic appeal, sorry, with quality. And you look at all the buildings that are constructed in China. It's a prime example. After they've finished, within a week or so, yeah, they might look brand spanking new and very nice, and then they start falling apart and they're dilapidated within a year. And I'm not just saying that's something aligned to China, but you see it in Kazakhstan, Central Asia, all these kinds of places, which are very much, as much as people like to think that Western culture is poisonous and noxious, which it is in certain respects, morally. When it comes to infrastructure and quality, and I guess priorities in certain respects, we are definitely on the upward, definitely at the peak actually. And I was thinking on the way here, because I'm in a philosophical mood today. It's another thing where I personally don't like horse meat. I think it's disgusting, and it's the same with fruits. There are certain fruits in the world that have gained a reputation that everybody universally accepts and likes: apples, oranges, lemons, even melon. And there are little fruits that we like to hunt out sometimes. And I'm a fruit person, so I'll try anything. But there's a reason why things aren't available in supermarkets. If things are tasty and irrespective of how much they cost to produce, manufacturers will find a way to produce them. If there's a demand, there will be a market, period. If you've got some fruit that's really rare that grows out in the middle of the tropics that no one's ever heard of, and it's more delicious than all the fruits combined, within years you'd have entire plantations of the stuff. So just because something is a novelty doesn't necessarily make it better than what we already have. And my point was, horse meat is really, really, I think it's disgusting, and people will disagree, but objectively, and I think there is an objective truth, if you take a good piece of quality beef, quality steak, and you compare it with horse meat, there's an absolute winner, and meat's no different. Chicken, universally used. Duck, universally used, especially with the Chinese. Beef, pork, all of these meats have a lot of flavour, whereas other things perhaps don't, or they're too strong, they're too gamey. And it's interesting because there's certain things that we actually, and the US is definitely not in this ballpark, but in Europe especially, where cuisine is taken very seriously, you think of Italy, you think of France, even Spain and the UK. I mean, we really don't have that many fast food joints in the UK. And here, if you come to Kazakhstan, if you come to all Central Asian countries, if you go to Turkey, the main food, the main staple, the main restaurant, the main cuisine that you'll see on every street corner is just doner kebab, just greasy meat sticks, burgers, fries. So the idea that somehow just because some other countries seem more novel to you, because you're on the other side of the world in your country that you've known since day one, and you see them riding horses and doing all these things, that they're going to have amazing cuisines, I promise you it's not the case. Usually rural people are far more simple with how they consume. And of course it is nice to try things that are different from time to time, but I promise you, having lived in this region now for a long time cumulatively, the food is terrible for the most part. There's nice food that you can hunt out, but the average person is eating doner kebabs and burgers in urban areas and cities. And if you take South America as a perfect example, the national dish of Brazil is beans and rice, and actually South American food as a whole is awful. It's just greasy beans, greasy rice. That's what you'll see pretty much everywhere. And you take food that's fantastic in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, and you take plov as an example. People go to these countries as tourists and they're like, "Oh, plov, it's amazing." Plov is literally just greasy rice with bits of meat in it. When you compare that to an Italian cuisine, if you think of even a pizza, in its real form, or any world-made pizza throughout the world, that is really a dish. A good quality pizza is an actual thing that someone's constructed, designed, and has to be produced perfectly. Lasagna, carbonara, bolognese, all these things. Even paella in Spain, and all the various French dishes that are somewhat pretentious. My point was, what a tangent, coming back to the facade of these places and the zoo in Kyrgyzstan that I wanted to compare it to. I was really disappointed. Yes, the zoo was what people would see as run down. All the fences were broken. Everything was a mismatch of just repairs over 50, 60 years. The paintwork was peeling. But, it was 100 som to get in, which is 80p. And all the animals were fine. Many of them were rescue animals. You have to remember that. Things that animals that have injuries or have been rescued from circuses, which are now banned in Kazakhstan. Now, actually, animals are not allowed in circuses. And I attended a shocking circus in Aktobe recently for the first time. But, look at this environment. This is a national park, and they have a lot of space here because I've actually walked from the main road up there. And, this is a huge fence here for the bisons. It goes all the way back through forest, and it keeps going as far as the eye can see. I think at the base of this hill is perhaps where a fence is. It must be, because I know there's no fence on the inside. This is a substantial piece of land, and it goes all the way back there. And the deers all look very happy. Here is Mr. Bison chomping away. And if you think of go to Berlin Zoo, if you've seen where those elephants live, or you go and see giraffes in the average zoo, even the nice ones like Taipei and Taiwan, they don't have the space. They don't have the space at all. So, it's really sad that I think some silly international organisations meddling would have closed down that Kyrgyzstan zoo, and there was no reason for it. And yes, the living conditions weren't amazing, but they're by no means worse than a lot of places in Europe or the so-called West. So I've come to this place to wrap up, and it's completely free to get in here. It's free entry. I doubt they even see one visitor a day, and she's very, very friendly. And okay, there's not really much to see inside. It took me less than 10 minutes to wander around, but it's about making the effort and showing you care and having that available to you. And obviously, if you're a child and you see certain things that you see as an adult and you kind of take with a pinch of salt, it's pleasant, it's nice, and I'm sure kids would enjoy having a little view of these bison. I keep saying buffalo, they're actually bison, I think. And yeah, there we go. I'll leave that video. There's going to be lots more videos today, so there we go. I'll leave it there. And a very nice old house. I like the kind of Gothic style architecture.